Hey guys, it's Carter, and today in this video I have to make a major confession. I was caught watching garbage news media. I was watching money managers give their opinion on Netflix stock on CNBC, and this is what they had to say. There was one money manager that said that Netflix stock is likely going to be trading at these prices for the next 12 to 18 months. I also listened to another analyst say that he recently cut his Netflix positions and that he is citing increased downward pressure is likely on Netflix stock in the weeks and months to come. So I just wanted to give my opinion on what I think is about to happen to Netflix stock. Are they right? Join me in this video. It should be very interesting. All right, so Netflix stock right here is trading at $88 and the money managers are bearish. Unfortunately, around here, money managers to us, they're considered dumb money. Money managers are no better than most people at determining when is a good time to hold and when is a good time to sell. And unfortunately for money managers, they're no better than dumb money. They were ultimately bearish in the time where we called capitulation in the stock market in April of 2025, and they've been bullish recently. So that is a concern. That is a sign that the stock market could be about to form a little bit of a correction in the January-February period. However, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to analyze Netflix stock, so we're going to stick to Netflix stock. And right here, we can see on the weekly chart that we're falling into a pocket of support between $80 to $88 here, and Netflix stock is experiencing oversold conditions on the 13 RSI on the weekly chart, which is very significant. We haven't seen oversold conditions on this chart since 2022 near the bottom of Netflix stock. So here we are in an uptrend, and in an uptrend, the RSI is much more useful than in a downtrend over here. It gives us a lot cleaner signals when stuff are oversold, and right now we're seeing an oversold signal on Netflix stock. So it's very likely that in the coming days and weeks we're going to see some sort of snapback on Netflix stock here, especially since we're in a major uptrend since 2022, falling into a pocket of support, way below the averages right now. So at least I'd expect a snapback to the averages, and that's what I'm looking for in the coming days and weeks. Let's go to the daily chart and dive into this further. Okay, daily chart of Netflix stock here. Since the beginning of December, we've been grinding to the downside in a falling wedge pattern, a typically bullish pattern. So more times than not, these break to the upside. And we're consolidating right here in a falling wedge pattern. This is bullish onto a pocket of potential support, which is a key Fibonacci retracement target. And then we also have additional support at around $80 to $82, which is a key pocket of support via this structural support down here. It's a key retracement target as well. It's also a key extension target of this potential A wave move here, B wave bounce right here, and C wave that I think we're working on right now to the downside, which could be about to bottom in my opinion. And if this is the case, then we can expect to see higher prices in 2026 on Netflix stock. I do believe that the pattern we're seeing right now is just a larger corrective pattern that will lead to new highs in 2026, possibly towards $156 would be my target to the upside, as well as $202 to the upside. Now, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So although I think that this is more likely just a corrective pattern that will lead to new highs, I'm going to show you what we need to see to be much more confident that a bottom is in place on Netflix stock here. So to make a bottom on Netflix stock much more likely, we need to see a bounce in the coming days and weeks that is going to take us above this area of resistance here, key retracement targets to the upside, and we have a key pocket between $100 and $110 here. We also have a little gap fill at around 107 and a little gap at 117. Typically, these get filled to the upside. We typically fill in the gaps when we head to the upside. So we need to see an impulsive bounce off the lows, and we need to hold the $80 support in the process of doing that. If we break below $80, it's likely that Netflix has in fact topped here in June of 2025. I think that's less likely right now. So if we break below $80 in a sustained way, it's likelier that Netflix has indeed formed a top in the price in June 2025. We also will likely have formed a top if we see a strong bounce back to the averages, back towards $100 to $110 in the coming days and weeks, around a 15 to 25% bounce in Netflix stock, and then form a fresh new low. So if we do that as well, that's also going to be a strong indication that Netflix has likely topped in price. So we cannot break $80 to the downside in a sustained way. We also can't see a very strong bounce back to the averages into the around $100 to $110 region and form a fresh new low in the months to come. We can't do that, or Netflix has likely topped. So those two things we need to avoid. We need to see an impulsive move that breaks through this resistance between $100 and $110. And then that's how we're going to be more confident that a low has formed on Netflix, either at 88 or in the low 80s. And we can be looking for 156 to possibly $202 to the upside. I have targets up there. We need to avoid breaking $80, and we need to avoid seeing a strong bounce, 50 and 25%, and then forming a fresh new low. We cannot be doing that on Netflix stock here. So why am I so confident that we're likely going to see a bounce on Netflix stock in the coming days and weeks? Well, we have bullish divergence on the RSI. We have the descending channel formation here, falling wedge, bullish pattern. We're seeing extreme stretch to the downside, extreme selling. This is actually one of the indicators I have developed here. It spots potential capitulation. It spots potential way overstretched selling to the downside. So we've actually printed a purple signal here, which is actually quite rare on daily charts here. On daily charts, purple signals are quite noteworthy. I'm going to show you the history of purple signals on Netflix stock. In 2022, we saw a purple signal get printed right here at the low, and we saw a 30% bounce, but it was really short-lived, and we made a fresh new low. So we cannot be doing that, but we did see a 30% bounce after we printed a purple signal here in 2022, but caution, it was nowhere near the low. So that is something to note. It was a very short-lived corrective bounce, and we need to avoid that present day for Netflix stock to rally higher. The time before that, Netflix printed a purple signal on the daily chart in 2019 at a major low, and it was the start of a major rally after that. The time before that, July 2007, Netflix printed a purple signal, and it was the low before a major rally. And then the previous time to that was the only other time we printed a purple signal on Netflix's daily chart here. We did go a little lower, but we did see an incredibly strong bounce to the upside before we made another low. So it was a corrective bounce we saw, nonetheless, a very strong corrective bounce from around 25 to 43 cents here on Netflix stock. And that's the history of seeing all the purple overstretched capitulation potentially signals on the daily chart of Netflix stock. So it's an incredibly rare signal. We've only seen it a handful of times since 2006 on Netflix. So to conclude my opinions here on Netflix stock, I believe it has more likely fallen in a corrective pattern to the downside into a pocket of support, and it looks like we're about to see some sort of strong bounce in the coming days and weeks. We are grinding to the downside in what looks like a bullish falling wedge pattern here, with bullish divergence on the daily chart RSI, and a rare purple overstretched selling to the downside signal here on the daily chart as well. All of these things are in favor of us potentially seeing a strong snapback to at least the averages here on Netflix stock, which would take us likely towards $100 to $110. And as long as we don't see a breakdown to a fresh new low from these levels or a direct breakdown below $80 support, it is likely that this corrective pattern to the downside will result in us breaking through this resistance eventually, and we will head towards $155 to $202 in the coming many months down the road. And I believe that these targets could be hit in Q3 2026. As long as we can break through the resistance, we have to hold $80 to the downside as critical support, and we also cannot form a fresh new low once we head to these resistance levels. Forming a fresh new low after such a strong bounce would change the pattern to the downside and look much more indicative that a top has formed in June 2025, which at the moment is my lower probability scenario. So I do believe there's going to be a strong bounce. Let's see where it takes us, and let's see if we can form an impulsive move to the upside that leads to new highs. Don't listen to the dumb money that say Netflix is going to experience continued downward pressure. I don't believe that's the case, provided we hold $80 support. I'm expecting a strong bounce. So I hope you liked the video. Take care. Have a good one.